afternoon and many thanks for joining us. This is News Analysis coming to you live on Politics and Business Television, Abuja. And my name is Bulus Joanna Ray. The top stories. Rivers emergency rule, National Assembly backs Tinubu as Fubara counters president's allegation. Kano governor directs aides to declare assets. The Supreme Court reinstates Anyanwu as PDP National Secretary. Federal government panel reconvenes Monday over Naira for crude crisis. Sudan army recaptures presidential palace after 2 years of war. Details coming up shortly. Stay with us. The National Assembly on Thursday endorsed a state of emergency imposed on Rivers State by President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday. The resolution was taken at separate plenary sessions of the two chambers, where they deliberated on the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu, and the State Assembly members. The Parliament backed Tinubu's proclamation amidst calls from the opposition leaders to reject it. Fubara on Thursday, however, broke his silence and debunked allegations by the federal government that he teleguided attacks on oil installations by suspected militant groups in the state. Also, the governor said claims that he did nothing to rebuild the bombed State House of Assembly after he ordered the demolition of the facility was untrue. Fubara said he acted on expert advice before demolition the assembly complex, which was said to have integrity issues. Meanwhile, the Kano State Governor, Abba Yusuf, has instructed all political appointees to declare their assets. Yusuf gave the directive during an iftar with heads of government agencies and special advisors at Government House, Kano, on Thursday. The governor said that 60 to 70% of the appointees had yet to comply with the Code of Conduct rules, and he urged them to promptly obtain, complete, and submit the necessary forms to ensure compliance with the law. Yusuf also addressed special advisors on the importance of providing counsel and submitting reports on governance matters. He encouraged them to actively monitor government affairs and offer advice, whether positive or negative. Yusuf also said that 13 Hajj seats had been allocated to the heads of government agencies. In the meantime, the Supreme Court of Nigeria on Friday reinstated Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. The Apex Court, in a unanimous judgment of a 5-member panel, said the matters bordering the leadership or membership of the political party is its internal affair and should not be the business of a court. The court proceeded to set aside the decision of Appeal Court, Enugu Division, which on 20th of December 2024 affirmed the removal of Anyanwu by a federal high court in Enugu. The Apex Court held the federal high court lacked jurisdiction to have heard the matter instituted by Nyago Emmanuel. On business matters, the huge allocation of crude oil by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to its foreign creditors is a big challenge to the supply of the commodity to domestic refiners, including the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. Insiders familiar with the development said the national oil firm had allocated large volumes of crude to its foreign creditors to settle the loans acquired by the firm, making it difficult to sustain the Naira for crude deal between NNPCL and Dangote Refinery. However, multiple sources from the Federal Ministry of Finance and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources confirmed that on Thursday that the technical subcommittee on the Naira for crude policy should reconvene on Monday to deliberate on the matter. It was gathered that the committee had mandated the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission to come up with options that will be reviewed by the panel as it struggles to return the Naira for crude deal. Well, you're still watching news analysis on P&B TV. We'll go on a short break and more news when we return. back now to foreign news. The Sudanese army has recaptured the presidential palace in Khartoum from the rival paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, military leaders have said. Video and photographs posted on social media and verified by the BBC showed jubilant soldiers waving their guns, cheering and kneeling to pray. The army appears poised to regain control of the capital 2 years after it was kicked out by its parliamentary rivals, known as the RSF. Nabil Abdallah, the army spokesperson, said on state TV that the military took control of the palace and ministry buildings in central Khartoum. Well, now let's join Abel Sunday for sports updates.
Good afternoon and welcome to P&B Sport News. I'm Abel Sunday. Zimbabwe and Benin Republic played out a thrilling 2-2 draw in their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier match yesterday. The game was filled with exciting moments, Steve Money scoring the opening goal in the 12th minute for the Squares of Benin. Benin Republic doubled their lead in the 35th minute through Dodo's goal, but Zimbabwe fought back with Marshal Moneste scoring in the 44th minute. Knowledge Monisa then equalized for Zimbabwe in the 59th minute, securing a crucial point for his team. Meanwhile, Rwanda will be taking on the Super Eagles of Nigeria today at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Rwanda is currently second in the Group C with 7 points, while Nigeria is in 5th place with just 3 points. Rwanda will be playing at Amahoro Stadium, which has a capacity of 45,508. They will be looking to use their home advantage to their benefit. Nigeria, on the other hand, is desperate for a win to revive their World Cup qualification hopes. With the return of key players like Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman, they might just have enough firepower to secure the much needed win. I'm Abel Sunday. That's all for sport today.
Well, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll dive into the focus of the day. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics and Business TV Abuja. Now to the focus of the day. The federal government pardoned over 4,000 prisoners in one day to save 1 billion naira feeding cost. The Minister of Interior, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, said the federal government released over 4,000 inmates in a single day with the aim of decongesting Nigeria's correctional facilities. The minister disclosed this on Thursday during the 5th ministerial press briefing held in Abuja. Tunji-Ojo said the gesture not only addressed overcrowding, but also resulted in substantial cost savings for the government. Dr. Tunji-Ojo emphasized that the mass release, which constituted of a 5% reduction in correctional center populations, primarily targeted detainees held for minor fines. He added that when conducting a detailed analysis of cases, authorities identified numerous individuals whose prolonged incarceration stemmed from minor offenses, thus facilitating the swift release. Additionally, the minister highlighted the proactive measures taken by the Commandant General Special Intelligence Squad in combating illegal refining activities across Nigeria. Throughout 2024, the squad dismantled 2,125 illegal refineries and oil dumps, underscoring a robust crackdown of illicit operations contributing to environmental degradation and economic sabotage. He added that the operations led to the arrest of over 700 suspects involved in these unlawful practices, with 345 convictions secured and 187 cases currently pending in court. Well, joining us to discuss this topic after a short break is the former Commissioner for Information and Strategy for Adamawa State, Ahmed Sajor, FNIPR. Stay with us. Welcome back. And with us in the studio is the former Commissioner for Information and Strategy for Adamawa State, Ahmed Sajor, FNIPR. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
We're fine, thank you. How are you doing, sir?
Well, alhamdulillah.
So,
this is Ramadan season.
yes, sir.
And we're doing well.
Thank God. So, I'll be discussing the federal government pardoning over 4,000 prisoners in one day to save 1 billion naira feeding cost. So I just wanted to know, what do you make of this latest report that the federal government had to pardon 4,000 prisoners in order to save 1 billion naira feeding cost?
Well, personally, I'm of the opinion that it was a very wrong reason to give. They can save money if they want to save money, but I would have been much happier if they say federal government pardons over 40,000 prison inmates who are standing trial for periods that are longer than the sentence they would have been given. And we have them a lot across the country. And that is very important for us to begin a conversation around the fact that people can stay awaiting trial for up to 10 years for an offense that, if the trial is concluded, the person is supposed to go to prison for 6 months, something in that region. And I think that should have been a more cogent reason to give for releasing, prisoners who are staying in prisons, for a very long time for offenses that are minor, that if the trial had gone through, and I'm sure if they give you a breakdown, majority of them are on awaiting trial.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask, do you think saving money is more important than ensuring that the offenders pay for their crime by serving their sentences?
I think saving money is not very important, and we are even talking about money because we have lost, the best practice that we had When I was a younger person, and definitely I've had a lot of institutional memories. I have lived long enough to know. When I was a younger person, the prison in my hometown of Mubi used to produce its own food. They had the biggest farm in Mubi. They could produce enough food to last them for a year. They used to help, in doing certain jobs in the town, including, sanitation, including helping, with certain aspects of lives and livelihoods in the town, paid. So all in all, the prisoners were taught to not just to be punished, but to actually begin to live useful lives that is of value. That's where we should return to. We do not need to save money from releasing prisoners, because we don't want to spend money on feeding them, but we can save money by making the prisoners themselves more productive, and that way they also learn to know that there are productive ways they could live their lives other than do crime. And then we would also do it on the grounds that some of these prisoners are either awaiting trial, some are even not guilty at all. At the end of the day, somebody stays in the prison for years, and the court pronounces that the person was not guilty. You cannot make up for the years he had spent in the prison. You cannot make up for the things he has learned in the prison, because the prison is also a school. While some are doing degrees through the National Open University, some are learning new degrees in crime and criminal activities by meeting hardened criminals within the prison walls. So all of these things should have come into play. It's not about money. Not everything should be about saving money. We should have a higher value than saving money. And that's my own concern. But that those that have committed offenses and they have been charged duly and they're supposed to meet a certain sentence, they should be allowed to meet the sentence. I understand that under the prerogative of mercy, people who have become too elderly are usually considered. People whose offenses were very minor and the sentences were considered to have been too harsh are also, usually considered for mercy. People who have terminal illnesses that require hospitals outside the prison walls are also considered for clemency and for mercy. But that is just the aspect. What is important is that nobody should be saved from serving his sentence or his or her sentence just because we want to save money. I think the money aspect is what we should not emphasize.
Okay. So you said earlier that some people have been awaiting trial, and at the end of the day, they are even innocent of those crimes. Do you want to tell us about how bad the prison system in Nigeria is today?
I am a regular visitor to the prisons, and I do it for several reasons. And sometimes, what some of us do is to go to the prisons and find out those that have very minor fines to pay that were unable to pay. I tell you, if you go into the prisons, aside from the extreme congestion, extreme, and I use the word extreme, consciously, apart from the extreme congestion, you will discover that the living conditions are terribly bad, the sanitary conditions are terribly bad, the empowerment that they're supposed to do is not available in most prisons. They are supposed to learn trades like tailoring, mechanic, and related vocations. But these aspects are not properly funded. And then they also have, some of the prisons have classrooms where they learn, from primary school to even university using the National Open University. But those aspects of it suffer from what they call saving money, lack of money, and then the prisons, the conditions are appalling. And there is no prison in Nigeria that is not more than 200% of its supposed capacity. There are some that are up to 1,000% above their supposed capacity. It's quite a very, very appalling situation. And of course, part of the problem, if you must know, is that the chief judges of the states are supposed to visit the prisons regularly and review cases in the prison. It's part of the responsibilities of the chief judges of the various states. But I doubt if the chief judges do this regularly. But they are supposed to, because if chief judges were going to prisons, they would have realized that people stay on awaiting trial for far longer than the sentence they would have earned if the case had been concluded.
Thank you, sir. So you spoke about farming and vocational skills in your hometown movie, in the prison in your hometown in movie. I just want to ask, how do you think this tradition can be practiced in other prisons around the country?
No, it has to be. It has to be. You see, part of the crisis we are facing today is that we have abandoned what used to work for us, and we've not arrived at what we need to work for us. And I'm saying this very consciously. We have abandoned what used to work for us, and we have not arrived at what does not work for us. When I was growing up, every primary school in my place had a farm, every secondary school had a farm, and the prisons had a farm. And those farms were big enough to have met some of our basic requirements. Today, the prisons are relying 100% on contractors supplying food to the prisons. It's not sustainable. When I was growing up, you could walk to the prison and hire prisoners to go and work on your farm. Our parents did it a lot. When I was growing up, you could hire prisoners to come and chop wood for you. You could hire prisoners to come and clear the gutters around your area, and so many other jobs that they could do. And they did it very happily and willingly, and the prisoners are paid a stipend, the prison authorities are paid a stipend. At the end of the day, it constituted funds that was used to maintain the prisons and to provide upkeep for the prisoners. It was a very productive engagement. It never relied so heavily on government to the extent that government had to release prisoners, some who may apparently be guilty just because they want to save money. I think we should start looking backward.
So what do you think is the best way to restructure the prisons in Nigeria?
Restructuring the prisons in Nigeria must begin with changing the mindset of correctional service officials. We're beginning to get to a situation where correctional service officials are also now beginning to become something else in terms of the maintenance of the prison system and their relationship with prisoners. I think we need to change the mindset. If we call it correctional centers, then the emphasis should be on the correctional itself. And how do you correct a person? You pick a person who is a criminal or somebody who has committed a felony, and you bring him into the system of the prisons or the correctional services so that you can change his thinking. You can put him away from committing crimes to living a just and useful life. You introduce him to skills that he never had. You introduce him to knowledge that he never had. I know for a fact, because I've met one or two people who have graduated with very good grades in the university while in the correctional services. They become useful. I have also met people who decided that they don't want to read Western education, but they wanted to read Islamic education. I met a person who was incarcerated for 26 years in the prison. He came out a Hafiz. He had memorized the Quran. He teaches. He does tafsir. He became a very valuable and useful member of the community. He instantly returned to his place. He was made the imam and all that. So if you want to correct a person's character, the correctional aspect of it should be emphasized to the extent that knowledge skills and attitudes must be taught in such a manner that the person changes his lifestyle once he's out of the correctional service center.
Thank you so much, sir. So much wisdom. Thank you for joining us, Sir Ahmed
Thank-
Sajor.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. I just hope that I've added value to what you're doing.
You have.
And that's important about being part of society. Thank you very much.
Thank
God
you
bless
so
you.
much, sir. Well, we've come to the end of the news analysis today. I am Bulus Joanna Ray. Do have a nice day. Goodbye.